All right. Good morning, everyone. For those of you who it's your first time here and we haven't ever met before, my name's Debbie Morrow, and I am here with a couple of friends. Ray, want to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, good morning. I'm Raymond Scholseth, based in Chicago, been in real estate for 33 years.
And, Jackie, do you want to introduce yourself? Jackie's here kind of helping man the lines, letting people in.
Sure, I will. I'm Jackie Butler. I am a realtor for over 20 years. I work for Epic Realty, the best company in the world, in my opinion. And I'm so excited to partner with all these amazing people and learn from them. So thanks all for coming. We're excited to have you here and hopefully get a um, learn a nugget that will help you with your business today. So appreciate you. Thanks,
All
Deb.
right. Thanks, Ray and Jackie. So we all think that we're with the best company, right? Or we wouldn't be with them, right? Isn't that kind of the way it works? All right. So this morning, we have a very special guest speaker, Dr. Al Philip Neri. And so it is so cool because he is a doctor. He just finished his doctorate in uh, team cohesion, or is that right? Did I?
No. Uh,
Oh, tell me what it is, Al.
my doctorate is in performance psychology. My research was on team cohesion.
See, there we go. So Al is super cool, and he is here this morning and going to share some really neat things with us. But I'm going to turn it over to Ray because Ray is so good at that whole interview back and forth podcast style thing. So Ray, buddy, the show's all yours.
Hey guys, good morning. Thanks for joining us today. First of all, we'd love to know how you joined us. Did you get our email? Did you find us in a Facebook group, in a meetup group? Where did you come from that we're so lucky to have you here? That's number one. Number two, today we're talking about success, and that's it's kind of a loaded word. So I want to pass the mic over to my buddy Al here. And Al, first of all, I'd love for a little bit of introduction on you and some background. I think you have a really interesting background. And then I want to talk about the problem and get into it. So please, the mic is yours, man. Share.
So background, I'm out of Denver. Been in real estate for 18 years, but my first career was in government service. So highest rank is I ran a juvenile prison for the state of Colorado, did special operations for a number of years, and then been an entrepreneur now for 21 years, numerous businesses. Done a lot of real estate investing. So you guys may have seen me on other webinars where I'm talking about real estate investing and things of that nature. But I'm actually pivoting, and I'm pivoting completely to just really focus on performance psychology, performance mindset, leadership development, team cohesion. And this topic it's weird because I've had it lingering in the back of my mind about the comparative culture with social media. And as I talk to people, it's actually a bigger deal than I think people like. They're not outward about it, right? But when you talk to them privately, it's actually a huge issue. It's a huge issue. And there's no surprise to me that there's no 20 somethings on this thing today, at least the people with the cameras on, because they're the problem. So,
All right, then. So in that, like, what is the problem? Like, that is a loaded question I want to
yeah.
ask you.
Yeah. So here's the problem is the problem is we're currently living in an ultra comparative generation, and it's because of social media. So, when you rewind your life prior to social media or prior to the influx of social media, you the only people you could compare yourself with was people that you kind of regularly saw, right? Whether you worked with them or you worked out at the same gym, whatever the case was. It was very minute on the audience you were comparing yourself to. Now the problem is with social media and aka the influencer status and people who really take up the pages, you're comparing yourself against people around the world, and the chances that you even know them are smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. But for some reason, you're fixated on what they're doing and not on what you're doing. And that's the problem. That's the problem.
So I mean, man, we could go a lot of different ways with this, but I think that Success is this word that has this fictional meaning to most people because they're basing it upon being judged by other people, not necessarily that internal reflection of what it may mean to them, right? Like success to Debbie, success to you, success to Jackie, success to me, all probably mean different things based upon these realities in which we live,
Yeah.
right? Like the lens we're looking through, our perception. And I want to take your, performance psychology and life's realities and kind of bridge that, right? Like when you were going through performance psychology and then also with this kind of bridge to team cohesion, what did you learn about life's realities that were surprising to you?
I mean, here's the thing. At the end of the day, everybody's life is unique to them, right? You're the only one that knows your life and maybe the closest people around you. Okay. And that at the end of the day should be the metrics, which we'll talk about here as we get further along today. So when you create plans, whatever it is, right? You go to some New Year's resolution boot camp that your brokerage offers, and let's figure out how much money you want to make, and let's count it backwards, and how many appointments you need to go on, and what's your conversion rate, and all this other horse shit is what that is, right? It doesn't put into perspective your life, and what's your bandwidth, what's your capacity, okay? And so, like one thing that when I do chat with people today is again when we go back to this comparative thing, I think it's super easy. What you're comparing yourself to on social media is some yo-yo's highlight reel that's edited, that's filtered, and only shows you whatever it is that they want to show you, and they've spun it in a direction that they want you to take it with or resonate with, right? But your highlight reel is legit. It's your world, right? It's your world. It's marriage, it's kids, it's debt, it's whatever. You get where I'm going? It's the million things that you're dealing with in life, and that's your highlight reel. But you're comparing it against this yo-yo's highlight reel that's trying to make it look like that the world is perfect and everything is easy. So, in research, even for team cohesion and things of that nature, one of the biggest things is just self-awareness. You cannot grow, you cannot change until you have self-awareness. And then it's not how do you get from here to here, right? It's how do you get from here to here and here to here and here to here and here to here and here to here. So that's the problem with a lot of these guys that want to do 5, 10 year master plans. Well, shit, you don't know if your spouse is going to die in 3 years. Bro, that's going to create a confusion in your master plan. Does that make sense? So there's just a lot of things about just being able to grab it, Ray, and being able to make it tangible. And you move millimeters at a time. That's how you progress in performance. You know what I mean? And if you look at I'll always probably go back to athletes because that's my world. But nobody jumps from a 315-pound bench press to a 425-pound bench press like that. There's no way. It just doesn't happen, right? You progress, and it might go up like 2.5 pounds, 5 pounds, 5 pounds, 5 pounds. You know what I mean? Until they finally get to that one rep max if they're a power lifter or something like that. So it's all about scale, right?
So Al, you hear people talk about living more in the present, being more present. You mentioned self-awareness, and I think in order to take these micro steps to build on, which is part of building the foundation over time, you have to be more present. You have to be more aware of what's actually happening with you as well as around you in the time. How do you get to that bridge, right? Like when we're overloaded by social media, to-do lists, kid stuff, family drama, whatever it may be, how do you again take these life's realities and build in more time for reflection, awareness, to be present?
Yeah. So, okay, your life starts with your non-negotiables. That's where your life starts, is with your non-negotiables, not this pie in the sky. Okay. So I don't know what your non-negotiables are. Actually, we can have people put them in the chat, right?
Let's do that. I love that. Guys, drop some non-negotiables in the chat.
Because I kind of want to see what people are writing here, other than a million contact information things. So what are your non-negotiables in your life? Okay, family. Yep, that's a big one. Morning meditation, so morning routine, family time. Yep. 3 hours of prospecting. You're a monster. Family. Fitness, family growth, kids, family, no devices at dinner time, healthy food, family respect, health, family integrity. Okay. Yep, you're getting it. Okay. So step one, my friends, is whenever you build your plan, start with your non-negotiables. Start with your non-negotiables. So if you've got your work week out, start with your non-negotiables because they're non-negotiable, right? Whether it's a morning routine, whether that's meditation, journaling, reading, reflection, working out, whatever that is, right? You can define your calendar. I'm not here to tell you how to manage your calendar, but you can bulk it, you can do them compartmentalized, whatever works for you, right? And then your kids, whatever comes around your kids and your spouses and sports and things of that nature, right? Family dinner with no phones, etc. Whatever is non-negotiable needs to be plugged into your calendar. That needs to be plugged in first. So even for me, right? People think it's nuts, but I pick up my grandson every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from school. I'm in the school parking lot at 2:15, so I get a good parking place, and I'm with him till 5:30. That's a non-negotiable 4 days a week. 4 days a week. It's a non-negotiable, right? My morning routine is a non-negotiable. So the reason you start with your non-negotiables is because that's actually who you are. That's who your intrinsic values are. That's who, AKA, your loyalty is, right? To yourself, to your family. And we're all going to have a different list of non-negotiables. We're all going to have a list of non-negotiables, right? Because some people don't have kids. Some people don't have significant others. Some people don't have kids, significant others, or pets. Some people still live in their mother's house. They don't have bills. Their life, their ability to grind is much different than the person that has a full plate. And that's why the non-negotiables is step one. Because once we have the non-negotiables, we can see how much time is left in your day that we can now focus. And we can build a producing activity-based business based on your bandwidth and your span.
So, Al, it sounds like we're starting to build a framework and kind of redefine what that looks like. So, step one is our non-negotiables. Tell us about that framework and where that came from.
Um, so I've always had, a very strong morning routine, right? I mean, even in government service and things of that nature, I'm that dude that's up at 4 a.m. and I'm working out. I've always had a very, very strong morning routine. But I had my first child at 19 when I was in college. And I was an athlete and I was working two jobs. Life was rough. I graduated with a 2.0001 with my bachelor's degree. And because the non-negotiable at that point in my life was actually my grades. I was willing to sacrifice my grades. I guess, yeah, let me put that in proper English because that came out very wrong. The non-negotiables was I was going to continue to be an elite level athlete and I was going to be a father. And then I was going to be a student. Okay. Well, what I learned at the age of 19 was it was very difficult to excel as an athlete, excel as a father, and excel as a student. So at that point in my life, I had to make a decision on which one was I going to give sacrifice to. And the sacrifice came to grades. And I did the least amount necessary to be able to get a C in a class. Like the least. The least. And so for me, just graduating with that bachelor's was success enough. Now, where's the impact in that, Ray, with my personal journey? Is I actually wanted to go to medical school. Well, if you can find me a medical school that would take somebody with a 2.0, I'm like all ears. I'll listen even to you today, right? But I had to make a decision based on my non-negotiables, right? And so that just carried forward, right? It just carried forward. I bypassed opportunities in the government because I would have been gone for a very, very long time. And now that, how does that relate to being a good father? If you're not present, you're not a father. So I sacrificed career choices, career movements, career paths within government service because I wanted to be a good father and I wanted to be present. So that's how this all came about. And I started to realize this is like the way I was building my life. And there's no regret. Like there's no regret. It's just life circumstances, right? There's no regret. It is what it is. So, and I'll it's a little, it's not inappropriate, but I'll say it because it was mind blowing to me when it was told to me. So I had somebody very high up in the SEALs. They were talking to me, and I had done a lot of stuff to go that direction as an officer. Blah 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 blah. And he basically looked at me and he said, "There's something holding you back. What's holding you back?" And I said, "Well, I have a 5-year-old daughter." And he said, "Uh-huh, that makes sense." And he said, "I'm going to put it to you plain and simple." He said, "This is a single man's game unless you're okay with your daughter being on a pole when she's 18 years old." And I was like, "I am not okay with that. So I will stay at home." Make sense? It was just, I mean, it was a graphic example, but he got it. The Navy didn't get it, but he got it because he lived in that world. Does that make sense? And he had respect for family. The Navy, I was just a token because I was a guy of color that passed all the OCS tests, that passed all the pre-buds tests. And so I was a statistic to them that made them look good.
Al, can I ask you a question about that? If he wouldn't have been as brazen with that comment, do you think you would have made a different decision?
I don't think I would have made a different decision because I was hemming and hawing. And anybody that knows me, I don't hem and haw. But I was hemming and hawing, right? And I was hemming and hawing and hemming and hawing and hemming and hawing and hemming and hawing. So I don't know that I ever would have caved. He just helped me make that decision that day, and I was able to shut it off after that
Got it.
because he was so brutally honest. And he just painted it in a picture that I was like, no way, man, no way. So yeah, no way. So yeah, not for my kid. So
All right, so let's move on back to the framework here. So we have step one, what are your non-negotiables? What's next?
so once you got your non-negotiables, now you know how much time you have, right? You know how much time you have for your business because you got those non-negotiables. And those are priority number one is your non-negotiable. So priority number two is now your business. So there's 3 questions I would ask you. Well, actually, I'm going to give you 3 principles and I'll give you some additional questions. Number one is ask yourself this. Are you even building a business that aligns with your long game? Are you even building a business that aligns with your long plan game? And the reason I tell you should ask yourself that, Ray, is a lot of people in real estate through default. This is a default career. Very few people grow up going, I want to be a realtor. Like that's my goal is I want to be a realtor. I guess there's a few odd ducklings in this world that had a desire to do this, right? But most of us fell here through default. So ask yourself, I mean, really, is this where you want to be? Is this fulfilling your long-term strategy? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But if it's not, then we should be finding you something else to do. If it is, great. You feel like you're serving your worth to your clients, et cetera, not a problem. Number 2 is with your current way you're building your business, are you sacrificing your inner peace and relationships in order to win? Are you sacrificing your inner peace and relationships in order to win? And I want to come back to an example on that one. And the last one is, as you're building your plan, is this your definition of success? Or is this somebody else's definition of success because you're comparing yourself again to somebody on social media or somebody else in your brokerage, right? Whose definition of success is this? Yours or someone else's? Now, the reason I want to come back to sacrificing the relationship thing is when I first got into real estate, we were really good at bringing in like cold internet leads, really, really good at it. And well, I guess we weren't good at it. We just paid enough money to be good at it. And so that's 7 days a week, right? People would come, you know, they're clicking buttons on how, I don't remember how we were marketing this, but it was like 2007, 2008. And me and my team members' motto was, man, if somebody clicks, be ready to go show a house. Like no matter what. Like not even a lot of questions, not like, are you pre-approved? None of that stuff. Like you want to see a house, we're going to meet you at the house and we're going to develop a relationship. But that was 7 days a week, Ray. 7 days a week. Dude, I would have kids in my car, my wife, we'd be on the way to like a barbecue, and I'd be like, oh my God, we got to go show a house, and the house is like 30 minutes away. Don't worry, we won't be that late to the barbecue. Because I was chasing this thing that I thought I was supposed to be chasing. Right? Like the definition of success was given to me, and this was the sacrifice that we had to make. So when I reflect back on that, and I'm like, what a nightmare of a lifestyle for my family was I creating, because on Saturdays and Sundays, showing a house was priority over any other thing. And sure, they went with the flow. My wife was supportive, you know, is supportive. You know, my kids, whatever, you don't have to say, you just chill. You know what I mean? And but I mean, what kind of family life was that? You know what I'm saying? Just because I was chasing the money. And I was chasing the money because my team member put that pressure on me because he was paying for the ads, that this was the expectation that we were going to serve this business, of how we were going to serve this business.
So, with these questions, talking about step one, step two, we're giving people some tools to self-reflect and ask some questions, right? We got about, I don't know, 10 minutes left before we get into breakout rooms. How do we use this information? What do we do with it? Where do we go from here?
So the biggest thing is you got to create your plan. And that's really why I'm here today. Okay. You got to create your plan. And those were just the three frameworks, right? There's a million questions within that plan you can ask yourself. Okay. But I'm going to go back to the problem, and I want to expand on it a little bit, because as you create your plan, and I was talking to a Beverly Hills agent the other day, and she was, she's been around the block. She was talking about this boutique brokerage that there's only 9 of them. One of them is just crushing it. 8 of them are starving. And I was like, so I dig a little deeper on the one that's crushing it. Well, come to find out that the managing broker, employing broker, him and that one agent do everything together. They co-list, they're co-buyers agents, they're co-everything, right? They're co-everything. And so she's like, well, if this lady can be successful in this market, why can't I? And she goes, do I need to get out of real estate? Should I look at a different career? All that self-doubt kind of thing, right? So I went back to kind of this conversation and, laid out this, kind of framework for her. And, there's a few different things. Number one, she's going through excruciating divorce that just takes up a lot of mental energy, right? So her motivation to grind just isn't quite there because this divorce is sucking it out of her. She had a son who was getting married. She got another son who's finishing his doctorate degree. I don't know, I'd consider that pretty proud parent moments, right? But she wasn't able to be as focused as she wanted in real estate, right? So she was kind of beating herself up. And I said, well, hold on a second here. The problem is that might not even be the problem. I said, what you don't know is, where is this other agent getting her business from that all of a sudden everything is done with the managing broker? How do you not know they're not sleeping together? How do you not know that he's not bringing in leads and giving them all to her? So it's not her grind. He's just paving the way for her. How do you not know that? You don't know that. So then she reflected back and she was like, yeah, it is kind of weird how they're co-brokering everything. And I said, yeah. So now you're comparing yourself to an opportunity that you don't even have, right? Because he's not offering that to the other eight of you. So while it might be that she's crushing it, she's not crushing it on the same terms that the other eight of you are operating on. You don't have whatever this extra thing that's going on is going on. So what I want people to do, and hence like social media and things of that nature, is quit looking at all that. Quit looking at all that. Because again, you don't know what's true and what's false, and you don't know the inner workings of what's going on. All I want people to do, Ray, is honor their non-negotiables, figure out what their bandwidth is, and whatever their bandwidth is, build their plan that yields success for them within their bandwidth. Within their bandwidth. Okay. And I'll tell you, one of my biggest like pet peeves in life, Ray, is, and this has always kind of been a pet peeve of mine, when somebody expects you to alter your non-negotiables for their benefit. It's actually an F off. I'm pretty much turned off right away, and I probably will never talk to you again because you didn't have enough respect for me and my lifestyle. And our values don't align. So that's the other thing you got to be super careful of, right? Is getting sucked into this direction that doesn't even work well with your lifestyle, kind of thing. So, and the problem is real, Ray, and I'm going to go back to that, is if I should start calling all agents out, but I just don't have enough time in my life, right? And because it does really bother me. But the other day, I saw two separate agents here in Denver post the same closing. Does that seem a little weird to you? Right? Both these bastards used whoever's closing it was to make the other person basically threw out that closing to make it look like it was their closing. Now, obviously, if I had time on my hands, I could go back and dig through and see who the real agent was. And then I could be like, hey, dude, you're a scam. You're a liar. But I mean, again, I don't really have that personality. Sometimes I wish I did, but I don't. And I'm just like, what a joke. What a joke. Like, what an absolute joke. Right? But again, if you're following this person and they're bragging that they had 4 closings and you're in a drought season because the market's been a little weird, because the world's been a little bit weird, now you're comparing yourself to this yo-yo and you don't even know if this dude actually closed any deals. He's just using 4 other people's closings from his office. Say what? Do you see where I'm going? Right? Like, so the framework is build your own plan. Your success plan is your own definition of success, not your brokerages, not society's, nothing else. It's your own definition of success based on where you're at. And the last thing I would say, Ray, is that your definition of success changes. It changes over time, right? You've all heard about this, the seasons, right? Different things happen in your life that's going to alter your master plan. Happens all the time. Right? The funniest one I'll tell you in real estate is people are like, oh my God, it's going to be summer. My kids don't have school. I'm going to be able to grind. No, it's like the opposite. Now they have nothing to do, right? So they're home. You got to take them to the pool. You got to do this. 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 Like school gave you X number of hours where they were somewhere else, right? Summer's like torture for you, right? You're like, how am I supposed to do all this? Okay, well then don't put that pressure on yourself, right? You got to realign. Now, also, I do want to say, Ray, like I am about standards. I'm about pushing. I am about merit. I am about, right, like things of that nature. So you can't want success and not be willing to go after it. Does that make sense? like at the end of the day. So if your time is limited, if your bandwidth is limited, if your mental capacity is limited, then you have to rearrange your definition of success. And you have to understand that's just what it is today. And you can't complain about it. That's the thing. You can't be a victim and complain about it, because again, it's your life. You got to own it, right? You got to own it. And I guess, if I'll throw this out there, because people are always like, was there a trick? Yeah, sleep less. Sleep less, right? I mean, like, yeah, like sometimes you just got to sleep less. Like if you're, because you got to work when it's not interrupting those non-negotiables, right? And sometimes that's at late hours of the night or wee hours of the morning, where you can be uninterrupted and get stuff done.
I love it, Al. I want to go back to one thing you said about, you know, people interrupting your non-negotiables. I think a lot of us humans are recovering people pleasers. And there's been other people in our lives, parents, family, friends, partners, whatever, that have this entitlement, right? To pull. And if you don't have the ability to stand by your non-negotiables and do what you got to do, regardless of the outcome or consequence that somebody else may be viewing, it's going to be a tough road for you.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Alignment, alignment is huge.
Yeah.
Alignment is huge. And you know, you, I think sometimes the goal is, we want to know a lot of people, right? And really, why, right? I mean, why? Really, you want a handful of people that can help you grow, that can push you to grow, but can empathize with you, right? I mean, you want a good support system around you, right? And that doesn't mean they agree with you or make excuses for you or something like that. But it's also being about, just helping you find the time, or reframe things so that something does make sense. Something does make sense. And so alignment is huge, whether it's who your friendship circle is, who your mentorship circle is, who your brokerage circle is, whatever the case is, right? Alignment is huge. And if you don't have that, you're going to be in a constant battle, because you're here and they're here, and it's like a tug of war, right? You're being tugged in two different directions that aren't moving. Obviously, they're not moving in the same direction. So, um, so the whole premise of this is sometimes I just, I don't know, like social media is addicting, right? And you randomly scroll when you shouldn't, and then you see something, and then you're like, what? Right? And for me, it's never defeat, right? It's just pure frustration. And I'm like, why did I even pick up my phone? I was like writing an email. Like I was halfway in the middle of an email and like stopped. And like I picked up my phone and got on Instagram. Why? Like that's nutty, right? And so, but you just do weird stuff, right? You just do really, really weird stuff. So you just got to control, what you're looking through. Be afraid, don't be afraid. Like I started blocking people that were agents that I couldn't save. Or I don't know why I said save, because something popped up that said save English as the primary language. But people that I just felt were very toxic on social media and didn't have any sincerity, I just started blocking them and things of that nature, because I was like, I don't even want to see this stuff. Like it's a nightmare. You know what I mean? Like it's just a nightmare to see this stuff. So I would tell you guys, like if there are people like that, or they're getting the better end of you, just block them. Like just get them out of your world, right? So that you're not even following them and stuff like that. So, and I do think it's funny, right? Because if you go to an office, Ray, like you got to be careful of the culture. People can suck the living daylights out of you, when you go into the office and things. So just be careful of that, right? Like the water fountain gossip, right? Or the printer gossip, right? For those of us that are old enough to remember that places had water fountains and printers, right? Like a big one that you shared, right? So, like, yeah, like it's just be aware of your surroundings and just put yourself in a position that it's positive and it's growth, and growth is painful sometimes.
Yes, indeed. All right, we're at 20 minutes till the hour. Al, what's the last thing you want to leave people with? And then we'll either do Q&A or breakout rooms, whatever Debbie wants to do.
I'm gonna leave you this because I did write it down. Success is being in the rhythm with your life, not racing to somebody else's tempo. So success is being in the rhythm with your life and not racing to somebody else's tempo.
Ooh, I really like that.
Yeah. And I had it wrote down on a piece of paper. So, and Ray, I'm open for questions. So if people want more open dialogue, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with whatever
Okay.
the
Debbie, what would you like to do?
Um, okay, do we have a couple of quick questions and then we can hop into at least one breakout room? You guys know either raise your hand or unmute yourself. A question, how did you develop your philosophy?
um it's a great question actually. Um Life is one. Um and I think just reading, right? Reading, um listening to people who I viewed as role models. They might not know they were my role model, right? They probably had no idea that there was something about them that I looked up to. And I would pick their brain and just, ask kind of maybe a very strange question. And I would listen, and then I would, see, does that work for me? Um, does that work in my life? And I think the other thing, Anna Marie, is that I was never afraid to pivot. Never afraid to pivot. So if I tried something and it didn't work, that didn't mean that that strategy was terrible. It just might didn't work for me. Maybe it worked for somebody else, but it didn't work for me. And I wasn't afraid to pivot and try something different. Now, the flip side of that is, how long are you giving something time to work? I don't know. I'm kind of impatient. If I showed you my innate personality assessment, you would see I have a 0 on a scale of patience. I have no patience, like 0. Like I'm at the lowest end of the world on having patience. So I probably don't give things long enough. I really don't. And I'll pivot, and I'm okay with that. So, but a lot of it is just listening and seeking mentorship. Like, it's crazy, right? I'm a performance coach, and I still wake up every morning. This is no joke. And I listen to something motivational. Like on YouTube, I listen to Motiversity or Strong Motivation. I'll listen to Dr. Miles Monroe. I'll listen to Myron Golden. I'll listen to, I don't really care for Tony Robbins. I don't listen to it. I listen to Eric Thomas. Like, it's crazy. I still wake up every day, and I wake up pretty ready to rock the world. I still listen to something, and it's still crazy that I get nuggets. It's nuts. At some point you're like, well, when are the nuggets? No, like somebody says something and you're like, oh my God. Or, and sometimes you got to be in a place where you're ready to receive it. You could have heard that thing 2 years ago, but you weren't in a place to receive it. And this morning you were in a place to receive it. So all of a sudden it clicks, or some life circumstance, it clicks. So just constant fueling the mind, fueling the heart, is really how I develop my philosophy. And then ultimately you'll develop the philosophy that works well for you.
Excellent. Jackie wrote in, what is the best time and way to ask someone what their non-negotiables are? I'm going to actually reframe that and say in real estate, because I actually think that that's a really great question when you're working with a buyer or a seller, with a client. When should you ask them what their non-negotiables are, and what's the best way to do that?
Uh, we can spin that many different ways. So I guess you're asking, like, if you're an agent and you're working with a client, right, Debbie? That,
Yes.
that that's the way you're specifically tweaking it.
Yeah.
Um, so the reason I chuckle is because, like, every workshop you go to, right, like, these speakers are always like, give people two options that work, and they just have to adjust their schedule to yours, right? Like, you've all heard that nonsense, right? And And I think the thing is you just, as you're getting to know people, you pay attention and you figure things out, right? If they, if they have kids, I mean, obviously, how late can they really go see houses if we're talking about a buyer's agent thing, right? I mean, or do their kids play sports? So guess what? Saturday mornings might not work, right? And things of that nature. And I think the thing of it is yes, buying a house is a priority to them, right? It is. It's buying a priority. Or at least you'd hope that buying a house is a priority to them, right? But at the same token, you have to be the one that might have to adapt just a tad bit um, around your non-negotiables, right? And so, so this might sound, like you take my grandson's thing, right? 2:15 to 5:30, 4 days a week. The only thing I will do work-wise during that time is I'll do a call or I'll do a Zoom. That's it. I'll do a call or I'll do a Zoom. Because I know I physically can't be at two places at one time. So if somebody were to say, hey, could you do Thursday at 3 o'clock? I would just respond back with, hey, unfortunately, that doesn't work. How about 6 o'clock? Right? Or if they really need a 3 o'clock, well, I know on Mondays I don't pick them up. So I'd be like, hey, Monday I could do 3. Does that help you out? So a lot of it is just it's being flexible, and also understanding that they potentially are juggling a lot as well, right? Now, obviously, if the motivation to buy is high, and we were in a market like we had when rates were 3%, well, that's a little different now, right? Because the market circumstance, it's like, hey, if we don't figure out a way to get to this house today, the chances are it's probably going to be gone. Is there any is there anything we can do to just try to get by that house today if you really think this is the one for you? And then you got to try to just kind of work from there, right? Kind of thing like that. The truth right now is, we're not in that mass race of people overpaying by 20, 40, 100 grand. But I think you just got to be aware. You've got to be aware of what people's schedules are, needs are, things of that nature. But to go back to like Jackie's question, I think it's just you ask it a little bit more open-ended, right, Jackie? Like most, I don't think you use the word non-negotiables. Just say, hey, as we're moving forward, with whatever, are there any schedule conflicts that I should be aware of that I know are times that just do not work for you?
Yeah, and I appreciate Debbie pushing it into the real estate. I was thinking more along the lines of like, working with people, but I guess the reality is, like you're saying, if it's a non-negotiable, then it's on you to figure out how to work around that, right? So, for example, if I can't work between 2 and 4, maybe I have to look for somebody who can actually take my place between 2 and 4 and like make sure that the clients know, I don't show houses between 2 and 4 on Thursdays, but I have a wonderful business partner who will be available for you, right? There's always a solution. And it's if we're looking at our non-negotiables and realizing, we have to figure out a way to work with our clients, then there's things that we can do to solve the problem. And it's about having that problem solving mindset versus like, oh no, now I have to change everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, may
Yeah.
always not work out, but you could try. So yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And that's a good point. Like just create a solution, right? Whatever that solution is. And with solutions sometimes comes sacrifice, right? So, what you have to be okay with, let's just say in this case, I mean, obviously like in Colorado, we have Showami, which we have agents sitting on standby on an app that will go show a house for you. And they get paid like $25, $30, whatever the case is, right? All they're doing is opening the door. That's it, right? It's a pretty cool service. I don't know if other markets has something like that. But let's just say because of the client schedule and your schedule, you got to bring in another agent, and so you guys are going to split commission or whatever it is you're going to do, right? Or you're going to pay them, whatever you're going to work out in the solution is you have to be okay that solution is what worked for you, and the sacrifice was you got to give up X number of dollars in that example. So you can't go complaining around the world, well, I had to give up 25% of my commission. No, like that was your non-negotiable, right? So your solution was this that cost you this. Quit being a victim, right? You were a solution driven individual and you made that work, and then you might wake up one day going, man, I should do that more often because I actually like hate driving around town showing 63 homes, right? Like you might go to that model like, oh my God, that was the greatest thing I ever did, and so yeah, so great questions. Was there anything else? Uh,
I don't see any other questions really in the chat.
I think Gary had one in there.
Gary?
Gary Nuska.
Well, Gary
But
was asking about how do we set, did you mention talking about goals or setting goals? But that's vision, alignment, whatever you want to call it. But right, Al, do you want to talk about goal setting?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Gary, is so you have to my whole point of today is set your goals based on your life. That's not somebody else's, not what the brokerage expects of you, not what social media expects of you. Based on your bandwidth and your non-negotiables, set your goals. So I'll just give you an example, right? So I traveled for 6 years and I taught for all the major real estate TV shows, all the fix and flip houses and all that nonsense like that, right? And it was very interesting when I asked people what do they do? They just paid X number of dollars. What was realistic to them, like that they wanted to make back in 90 days? And the most common answer was the amount that they paid for the program. So somewhere between 25K and 60K. That was the most common answer, right? One guy told me 1.5 million, and I was like, oh my God, I got a nut job in the class, right? And sometimes somebody would say like 5 grand or 10 grand. And here's what I would tell people on those goals is I don't know what your life is. I don't know how much time you can put into something to achieving success. But what you have to understand, for some people, the reason they invested in this course on how to wholesale houses or fix and flip houses or buy rentals, blah, 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 because we covered it all, was for some people, the reward was a family vacation to Cancun every year. That was the reward. 5K, 10K, whatever that vacation looks like for you, right? For others, it was, you're working for 50K a year and you wanted to replace that income so that you didn't have a job anymore. But whenever each person hit their reward, that checked their box. It checked their box. So for Gary, like not everybody can be a top producer in real estate for a variety of reasons. Skill, marketing dollars, systems, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? But what if you're a mom with 3 little kids and that's your role and responsibility or whatever the case is, and husband makes enough money that you guys can pay your bills, that when you came into real estate, it was to give you something to do. It was to give you a sense of purpose beyond being a mother and a wife, and it was your sense of having a little bit of community, and you were okay with closing 1 deal a quarter, right? And let's just say average commission is 10 grand, and then your brokerage takes most of it, so you're left with 5. So that's an extra 20K a year, right? Kind of thing. And to you, that was success. But what's happened is, as you've evolved into this real estate and you go to all these real estate trainings and you compare yourself, now all of a sudden the pressure's on that you got to have 4 closings a month or 3 closings a month. But that was never your goal or your desire of when you got into real estate. Now, obviously, if that desire changes and that's what you want to achieve, okay, great. But can you do that with 3 small kids? I don't know, maybe, maybe not. Not really sure. So Gary, the biggest thing on setting your goals is just make sure they align with the amount of effort that you can put in to reach them. The amount of focus, the amount of productivity you can put in to reach them. Because that's usually where the disconnect is. The goal, the amount of work it takes, and do you have the bandwidth to put into that work? That's usually where the disconnect is. That's where the disconnect is. The bandwidth to do the work. Hopefully that makes sense.
I love it. Thanks, Al. So Debbie, we don't have time to do breakout rooms today, it looks like, right? Okay. All right. Or Keem, I see your hand, bud. What's up?
Yes, I can align with you on so many different levels. I really enjoyed you today. I've been going to this meetup for a while now. I don't know, a couple months, but by far you're like one of the best for me because I can align with you so much. Um, our education is different though. I have an MBA. I've also have a master's in counseling, so I understand a lot of that dynamic from my education. I understand solution focused therapy. I understand, cognitive behavioral therapy. I understand all these different concepts and I apply them to my real estate life. And I'm an investor, buy and hold 20 doors portfolio, a couple mil, whatever. But at the end of the day, I think what you're doing is great. And one thing I think that struggles for myself many times and also people in general is getting out of the stumbling blocks. You have all this information, but it gets stuck with analysis paralysis. Or you have someone on your right hand, like your wife or your spouse or your partner, saying, no, I don't think it's going to work. And you're kind of fighting back and forth trying to get to the next level. But I enjoyed you today. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And analysis paralysis is real, my friends, right? That's a real thing. Um, and the biggest thing is, I guess it goes back to the philosophy thing. Don't be afraid of making a mistake and don't be afraid to fail. It's temporary. It's temporary. And then you figure something else out and you try it, right? And I think, if you're a reader and you read books of like whatever the most successful, wealthiest, whatever you define success is, right? You'll realize that people have failed a lot more than they succeeded. And it's just about being undefeated and never giving up. So don't be afraid to fail. And I guess, I did have one mantra that I didn't share today, Ray, is I've always felt like money is replaceable. So as much as it sucks to lose money, and I've lost money, my friends. I mean, I've lost money. I was investing in 21 markets at the same time, and when the market crashed, that was painful. Oh my God, was it painful? I've just never been afraid to lose money. And the reason is even though it's painful and it sucks and it's awful, I've always felt like it's replaceable. You just go out and you keep hustling and you hustle harder and you find something else. And so I think a lot of that has to do with my philosophy of not being afraid to fail is that if I fail, not that it was meant to be, but I'll learn something from it and I'll adjust, and moving forward I'll make that tweak, and then I'll keep going and I'll keep going and I'll keep going. So that's the other thing, my friends, is don't be afraid to go after it, right? And the losing money thing, I'm not telling you to go out and lose money, please, right? Like but where I'm going with that is, you might try some lead generation software and it doesn't work. Yeah, it sucks. I just tried one not too long ago and I was really pissed off at the results. And I bitched and I moaned and I bitched and I moaned a little bit, and now I'm kind of over it, and now I'm thinking outside the box within my resources and my skill set and who I have on my team, that I'm like, okay, what if we do this my way, the way I've been doing this as an investor for 20 years, and we go after these leads and see if I can sneak out one flip or one wholesale deal just from the list I have, even though I didn't like the program or the individuals running the program, right? I pivoted. I pivoted, and I just know I unsubscribe from all their emails. I'll never can do business with them again. I'll never listen to them. I won't trust them. And I just have eliminated them from my life. I blocked them on Facebook because I don't want to be part of their community group. But I've got a list and I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to try to yield results, which is also going to cost money. And I don't know if it'll work or it won't work, but it's worth a try. So in real estate, I think we're always looking for the way to do something, right? We get 93 text messages a day on seller leads and health insurance. The car warranty stuff has stopped.
All right. So we are right at the top of the hour. I'm going to say thank you, Al, so much for your uh, presentation today, your um, philosophy, and sharing with us. Some people it 100% aligns with, and some people it is exactly the opposite, right? We all have our own ways at looking at things, but I appreciate you sharing with us this morning. And Ray, anything to wrap it up?
Guys, you can grab a copy of the chat if you want. I uploaded it there. And just think about those reflection questions. Al, thanks for being here with us today. It was awesome. I think we're too busy reacting to life and not responding. So if we can take a minute to reflect and then respond and give ourselves a little bit of runway, we're in a much better place.
Excellent. So thanks, you guys, for joining us this morning. We are here every Thursday morning, same bat time, same bat channel. We will see you guys next week.